What's up, folks? I'm Odd, by the way, and welcome back to my Tober of Tobers. This is the last regular episode that we're going to have of 3 selections before our finale, which is 4. And if you are new here, this is a challenge that is effectively kind of a spin on a normal, October art challenge. There are multitudes of them that people have made as alternatives to the regular, Inktober, Arttober, OC-tober, what have you. People have been making prompt lists for this month to draw or write throughout the entire month, every single day. And we are taking it for a bit of a random spin, quite literally, in fact, because I have with me a boop, this wheel on Wheel of Names that is just an assortment of links. They all work almost exclusively to Tumblr because that's just where I found all of these links. So we are going to be spinning this wheel, and the idea is, since say today is day 25, we are going to be spinning for today, and the prompt list that we spin today, day 25 of that list, will be the day that we do. And then for day 26 of the next list, day 27 of the next list, so on and so forth until the end of the month, which is coming up pretty soon. And the next episode will be 4 entries, just because that's how October and 31-day months work. So join me for this last smaller assortment of pieces, and let's just see what we get. And at that, let's spin our wheel. And green? No. Blue? All right. Open that in a new tab, remove you. All right. Melodic Banter with a 4. October Challenge is just what it's called. And we are looking for day 25. Dead Man Walking. Okay. It's terrible because my brain just goes to, the jokes that people would make when somebody gets married. Which kind of gives me, Corpse Bride vibes. Okay. So that is our first selection, and back to the wheel. Selection number 2, please. We're gonna get, what was it, blue again? Sometimes it likes to do repeat colors. Yep. Okay. Move you. Nice. All right, sweet. Skno in ink. Inktober is just called. I don't think this is. Yeah, this is Skno's Inktober. I guess it's just snow, isn't it? Like snow. So this is Snow's Inktober. It would be day 26. Feral. Yes. Feral. It's one of my favorite words. Beautiful. All right. Well, this is cool. And they decided to do ink splatters to also work with the prompts. Interesting. Maybe I'll take that into account. Don't necessarily need to, but it'd be fun to work with a random shape. All right. Next selection, and our final for this batch. Red this time? Breaking the cycle, red. Okay. Remove you. October 2024 prompt list from Q2K. And we are looking for day 27. Melted. Ooh. My brain's going to a candle or a wax figurine. All right. Well, we have all of our selections for this group, so I will pop you over to 2 days from now, and we will see what I have done with all these prompts. So, see you there. Day 25 was Dead Man Walking. I mentioned earlier that the phrase feels kind of tied to those dated jokes about marriage, but its original purpose, at least I think so, is for a prisoner being escorted to their execution. I decided to kind of almost combine the two, though. A prisoner sent off as sacrifice to a harpy with different results than expected. The sketch process for this alone took me a good while. It was very vivid in my head what I wanted it to be. I knew that I wanted my beastie here to be a harpy, or at least some degree of bird-like creature, and for her to be examining the man sent into her cave. His face changed a few times before I settled on something that I liked. Quite a few times, in fact. That tilted up expression is really hard to get right. I was definitely feeling the story behind this, though, so let's just get right into it. The town of Cavemuth had a bustling population, a crime problem, and a deep secret. A beast lived inside of the cave, which, true to the town's name, it was right in front of. Despite this, the town almost magically prospered. Many argued that the creature's influence led to this, so refused to put a bounty out on its head, even though livestock and occasionally people would disappear, as if eaten by the cave mouth itself. The council of the town came to an idea which they harrowingly pitched to the beast. They would offer a sacrifice to sate it regularly and not attack if it ventured out to hunt beyond their city limits. Surprisingly, they were met with rapt agreement. Since the town was bustling with activity and therefore crime, the solution seemed simple. Enact a death penalty, and instead of the usual methods of execution, the condemned would be brought to the cave so to feed this town's dark secret. The only issue is, it worked too well. Eventually, the crime rate dropped significantly. Violent crimes deemed worthy of execution fizzled out over a small number of years, criminals either moving away or getting far more elusive in their crimes, as word got out as to what actually happened to death row inmates. Eventually, nearing one of their deadlines for their little ritual, the council was left with a nearly empty jail, the most heinous crime being a drunken fight initiated by a young man named Zachary. Time had run out. Zach was bound in the dead of night, eyes covered until he reached the cave. He knew immediately that somehow he'd been sentenced to death. Had the other man somehow succumbed to his injuries? Surely this was some sort of mistake. Only one disguised member of the ritual spoke, offering their condolences and that it had to be done. They stated Zachary's crimes, as they usually did, and to both his relief and shock, manslaughter was in fact not one of them. Simple belligerence and aggravated assault. Really, the other man had started it. Zach only hit back harder. Regardless, with both paths he could take leading to death, Zachary chose to enter the cave. A small bouquet of roses was placed in his bound hands. Strange, but the disguised council member said it was the only other request. Zach entered the muggy cave, dripping with water and lined with stalactites and stalagmites like a stone maw. He saw a shape shift in the darkness, and then, finally, what appeared to be the face of his demise, a harpy, a bird-like creature that appeared uncannily human. It eyed him intelligently. It was almost enrapturing, really. Further cementing its intelligence, the beast spoke in a gritty tone. Corvus. Zachary realized it was introducing itself. Zach spoke his name in turn, too afraid to, but burning to ask, why the pleasantries? Why not just get it over with? The harpy gripped his chin and tilted it up, studying him with its claws. Yes. You'll do. Zach balked as the harpy gripped the bouquet, sniffing it, then simply eating the blue flowers. I should have been more specific. The murderers were a decent and righteous snack, but I thought they would sacrifice a lovely young thing fit to marry. You will do nicely. Day 26 was feral. Such a fun word, really. After the previous day, my mind was actually still stuck on the harpy design idea, and a thought had crossed my mind about pigeons. Pigeons, like the ones you see usually just chilling in city centers, are basically almost all at best feral. The thing is that they used to be more prominent pets because of their speed and homing abilities, and the ones that exist now are basically all descendants of those domestic birds that sort of just fend for themselves now, which is also why they probably feel so at home in our world, which is kind of sad when we face them with such disregard. We put them there. At least with rats, it was accidental, like they just go wherever we go, but we made kind of a reverse situation where instead of accidentally kind of domesticating a species that existed alongside us, we accidentally made what we considered a pest from domestic animals. So I sort of took all of that to create an unhinged looking pigeon harpy. This is Eerie, short for iridescent for her feathers, though some may mistake the spelling and just call her Eerie with 2 E's, as in unsettling, pertaining to her personality. An abandoned child, Eerie was the result of a human and a harpy, no relation to the previous couple, I'm sure they're very devoted, and her human father abandoned her on her own when she was quite young, old enough to start being big and appearing too monstrous. She was able to fend for herself, but often resigned to waiting in the little shack that she was left in, hoping for her father to return or for her mother to find her as he said she would. Eventually, she was found by a researcher who knew harpies well and that she was still far too young to be alone. Initially, she of course refused to leave, but over time she came around to the company of this new person and left with them of her own volition. Though she is recovering, Eerie tends to be very quiet and reserved, not quite understanding humans or harpies. Her reactions to both can come across as off-putting, but if you get to know her, she's still quite sweet, friendly, and intelligent, just a touch feral. Finally, for day 27, we have Melted. Wax was definitely the first thing that came to mind for me when I saw this prompt, I feel like for obvious reasons. Though characters or creatures made out of wax always seem so, fragile, usually used as an example of overextending or burning yourself out, what if a creature could use being wax to its advantage? I thought of a creature that used its amorphous nature to sort of move itself around, and since that looked kind of like a puddle, I wanted to do a sort of alligator or crocodile-inspired monster, using the same melted wax to form its body as a means of transportation. It's like a self-contained wax melt and block all in one. I also went for red wax just to further emphasize that sort of intimidating factor. It looks kind of like blood. Also because white candle wax can look like other body materials. Anyway, this creature is referred to as a wax dragon. An amorphous species similar to slimes, the wax dragon is a mostly magical creation used to guard dungeons and crypts. It has a fiery core that allows it to be constantly shifting the animalistic body it chooses, gliding along the surface of its own wax. Once any part of its body touches you, it can very quickly climb its way up, burning its victims with its molten body and suffocating them under heavy wax. The only way to combat it is intense cold, but even that only sets it into a state of hibernation. Once it warms up and starts melting again, its body process of melting and reforming kicks back up, and the wax dragon continues on its appointed rounds. But those are all my pieces for this batch. I had a lot of fun with this kind of story-driven world-building aspects of this, if you couldn't tell. I also used the opportunity to kind of study a little bit more, train some more art muscles. I feel like these types of challenges are definitely made for that. I spent a good chunk of time researching and looking for references for these, and I think they turned out better for it. I also sort of experimented with styles and stuff too, just letting myself have fun. Not that I wasn't necessarily before, but I feel like this batch was particularly experimental. And all this right before the finish, honestly. this revelation, right at the finish line. The final episode will be a little bit later because I will be using 4 prompts and it'll be out on the 1st of November. Now here's my question. I might poll this on the community page, but feel free to tell me in the comments. Do you want me to try and post that finale video as soon as it's finished? Or maybe midnight on the 1st, so it's still pretty thematically spooky day? Typically I get these finished the same day I do the last prompt just because of time constraints and all that, but I usually schedule them for the next morning because I am a nocturnal creature, but I know not everybody else is. So let me know what you would like to see from that. I could always just post it at the normal time too, that's fine. If I do midnight though, I could probably make it a fun premiere and still be up to, watch it. At that though, I'll leave this here and I'll see y'all sometime after days 28 through 31.